Okay, and I'm back. So we have our computer parts sales chart, our spreadsheet, and here I am. I'm a sales manager, and I'm not really good at doing math in my head. So say to myself, what would it look like if we increased sales for May by 5%? Okay, so I want to do a what if calculation. Okay, so um, over here, and then I'm going to create a column here. I'm going to call this what if. Okay, and I'm going to give this a change. Okay, let's go over here. I'm going to say change, and I want to put a number in here, 5%. Now, if I put 5% in here, okay, that value of 5%, as everybody I'm sure knows, is equal to 0.05. Well, I don't want to multiply it by 5%. I want to increase it by 5%. So I have to start off with 100% and then add 5%. So it's going to be 105%. But of course, I don't want to use 105%. I want to use the decimal numbers. So I'm going to change this back to a number and call that 1.05. Okay, you're with me so far? So we want to see these numbers in April multiplied by 105%. Okay, so I want to multiply this April number, that 40, by this number here. So I'm going to say equals this number, that F4, use the asterisk for times, and then I'm going to click on the K3 column. So I want to multiply F4 times K3, and it tells me 42%. And if you can do math on your head, you'll know, yeah, that's absolutely right. 2 is 5% of 40. So I'm lazy and I want to see what those numbers look like, and I'm going to come down here for all 5 categories, and there's 0. Why is that? I knew that was going to happen, you see. So here's what we need to do. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what's going on here. So this first one here, I'm multiplying F4 in blue times K3 in red. Okay, so everyone see that? Multiplying F4 times K3, that's good, right? Okay, this one down here though, whoops, I'm going to escape out of that. When I look at this one down here, I'm multiplying F5, good, times K5. Aha, remember, we talked about a relative reference. And that's what that is. That's a relative reference. But I've got to change this so it doesn't move. This F5 can change. I want that F5 to change. This one here and the next one, I want it to be F6. But I don't want this number up here to change. That's K3. I want every time I want it to multiply by K3. So I have to change the reference here to a fixed or absolute reference. Okay, so an absolute reference looks kind of funky in Excel. They actually have some characters to tell you, hey, lock this reference in place. And what you do is in front of the K, you put a $sign, and in front of the 3, you put a $sign. It means lock the column, remember column K, and lock the row 3. Okay? And when I do that, okay, now if I copy this down to the next one, notice now changes this number. 35 times 0.05 is, or 1.05 is 36.75. So if I increase by 5%, that's what it looks like. Okay, so now I want to do that again. There's a simpler way to remember this. Instead of typing the $sign, I'm going to undo this. Okay, now look, I'm back to this relative reference right here. I'm going to press the F4 key. So if you look at the top of your keyboard, the F4, go ahead, hit F4. That's it. Works good, huh? Okay. Whoops. Not if I keep doing that. Okay, let's try that again. K3, F4, hit enter, and it's locked into place. Now, if I drag this and copy it all the way down, there's your what if. Simple, huh? Cool. If you don't get it, at this point, stop. Go back. Watch what we're doing. Okay, watch it again. Try and get the idea of the absolute reference and relative reference. Again, you should have read those already in the notes for this assignment. So you should have gone to the Microsoft site and take a look at relative and absolute references. If you still don't get it, use your tutor. You've got one out there. Bob, for this class session, is our tutor. He'll be able to help you out. If this is a later class session, Bob might not be there, but there is tutoring available at the Reedley College Tutoring Center, so take advantage of that. Okay, one more key piece of information that we need to look at. Okay, up here, this is great if I go from 20, 40, 108, 40 pieces of RAM, and if I increase that by 5%, 42 pieces of RAM, that's good. But I cannot sell 3/4 of a CPU. I just can't. I mean, I could, but you wouldn't be happy with it because it just wouldn't work. You have to sell the whole thing, right? So for most of these parts, I want this to round to the nearest whole number. So notice what's breaking this up? Well, a little decimal point in there. So what I want to do is, then for any of these numbers here, I'm going to highlight column I, and I'm going to apply some number formatting. So I can certainly come up here and I can change them by increase or decrease decimal. Oops. Actually, I can't right now because I have to change it to a number first. See, it says general. If I click out of there, see, it says, whoops, it says right up here, it says general. It's not a general entry, it's a number entry. So I want to change these to numbers. So first thing I need to do is click on number. And now it gives me 2 decimal points for everything. So now I can change the number of decimals. I can increase or decrease. If I increase, I've got more decimals. If I decrease, I have fewer. And there we go. Okay. Same thing for these down here. I can't sell 55. I can't average 55.2 pieces of RAM. So I want to round those to the nearest whole number. I'm going to highlight those, change it to a number, and then decrease the decimals. And that's it. We're done. Okay, so first thing, come up here, save your work. Second thing, let's go over what we learned. Okay, so we learned about the what if. We learned how to do a formula. Okay, so remember, you come up here and we're using references. So I'm referring to the number in F4, and I'm referring to the number that's contained in cell K3. I don't care what that number is. That's the beauty of it. I can change that number. My formula, the results of my formula will change. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But I've got these dollar signs in front of the K and the 3. That's an absolute reference. Again, I can toggle it. If I hit F4, if I keep hitting F4, it's going to change those. I want to make sure there's a dollar sign in both of those coordinates so that I can lock everything in place. And then the formula will follow exactly. Okay. With that said, we're kind of done with this. I want to show you the beauty of these formulas, though. So here I am. I have a 5% increase, but I'm kind of a hard-charging sales manager, and I want a 25% increase. So what do I have to change this change number to? Well, I don't want 25% of the sales. I want 125% of the sales. So in decimal numbers, that's 1.25. And if I change that, it changes my what if numbers here. Likewise, if I go in and figure, oh, I didn't sell 115 motherboards, I sold 150 motherboards in February. If I hit enter, that changes a lot of my numbers. It doesn't change this what if because that's only based on April, but it changes my average, my minimum, my maximum. It also changes the total motherboards sold here, and it changes them down here. So lots of cool stuff. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Have a great day. Again, if you need help, go to the tutorial center, contact me. Look at all of the online help that's available, and even ask each other. You'll probably learn best from listening to each other. That's all I got. See ya.